Hi everyone, if you're new here, my name is Chelsea. If you've been here before, welcome back. I'm really happy to have you here today. I'm really happy to have you here with me today at Little Mountain Ranch and in my temporary outdoor canning kitchen that I have set up out here on my deck. The plan today is to can around 200 pounds of peaches. We're going to make peaches with a light syrup and we're going to make some peach salsa as well. Today was probably not the best day to plan a big bulk canning day because it is going to be the hottest day that we've had so far this summer. 37 degrees Celsius, which is somewhere around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe a little over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot for most people. For us northerners, it is beyond hot, especially because we've had a really cold spring this year and haven't had a chance to acclimatize to summer temperatures. In fact, I just filled my pool about 5 days ago because the temperatures just got warm enough for the pool. I'll just show you the simple kind of setup we have. So we have the tent cover here, which is just fantastic. And then a double burner here, and this is very sturdy, so it can handle these two canners. And then the two pressure canners here that we're using for water bath canning. And I'm also gonna try steam canning with these because I've heard that you can. So I'm gonna try that. So we have our big canner over here, so this is the 9-quart, and then 2 propane tanks and a cute Alex over there. So this is just the equipment that I use for canning. So I just have some tongs, and these are for taking the jars out of the canners, my debubbler, and I just put this in around to get the bubbles, the extra air bubbles out of the product before I put the lids on. And then of course my canning lids, I have some regular lids and some wide mouth lids. When it comes to peaches, I don't mind either canning with wide mouth or regular mouth. There are some things like broth, for instance, that I prefer doing with regular. And then when I'm doing meals in jars, I like to use wide mouth because it's so much easier to get the product out of the jar. Same for beans, actually. This is what the digital Presto canner looks like. It has a screen here and it literally just walks you through each step that you need to do for either gives you the option to choose water bath canning or pressure canning. Really great little machine so far. I've only used it a couple of times, but so far I like it. My only complaint is that it only fits 5 quarts, but still, this is a fantastic machine, especially if you've been scared of pressure canning. This makes it really easy and really safe to try. And if you're just doing smaller batches, I think this is a really great option. If you're interested in some more detailed information about canning, I have a comprehensive canning guide that I've written, and I've put a link for it down in the show notes below and in the pinned comment. And in there I have information about water bath canning, pressure canning, and steam canning. There's some recipes and all sorts of tips to help make it easier for you to either learn how to can or improve upon your canning. So you can see I have a burner with a large canner here, and I'm using this to blanch my peaches. So all we're gonna do is take our peaches and put them right in this boiling water. And I can fit around 25 pounds of peaches or so in a single canner load here, which is fantastic. My kids are helping to do the chopping today, and we're just quartering these peaches. Very simple, and then I'll show you the simple syrup that I made in just a second. Thank goodness I got the pool filled because wow, I am gonna get hot doing this. I'm just setting all the peaches over here that aren't quite ripe, and I'll give those another couple of days before we process those. So these are Georgia peaches, and I've actually never seen a peach shaped like this before with the pointy part on the bottom. These were shipped up from Georgia, of course, being Georgia peaches. And the reason that I am buying peaches from Georgia and not peaches local to BC is because BC lost almost all of its stone fruit during a really severe cold snap this winter that killed off all of the buds on the trees, which is just heartbreaking for all of those farmers. Normally I would of course be buying fruit from BC, being in BC here myself. But since that wasn't an option this year, one of our farms where we actually normally buy our peaches from had these shipped up from Georgia, and I'm very grateful for that because we love peaches here in our house. So let's set that aside. I honestly was a little bit skeptical that these would be any good having been shipped up, but they are absolutely fantastic, and they may even be amongst the best peaches I have ever had. They are so good. So what we're gonna do here is just heat these up for around 3 minutes or so, until the skin starts to peel off. Oh, we're almost there already. And then we're gonna pull these out and bring these inside and put them in a sink of cold water. And then the skins are just gonna peel right off. Whenever I have to cook over open flame in the summertime, I have such compassion for the women of yesteryear who had to cook like this in the house with a wood cook stove year round, regardless of how hot it was, because that was their only option for cooking. My goodness, that must have been hard. So I'm going to be running 3 canners. I'm going to use this canner, which fits 9 quarts. And then I have 2 pressure canners up here that I'm going to use as water bath canners that fit 7 quarts each. And I did recently buy a electric pressure canner, and it's a Presto one. So far, I'm really loving it. I think it's fantastic. I wanted to buy one to test out because I've had so many people ask what my opinions and thoughts are on them. So far, I think it's great. But unfortunately, you can use it as a water bath canner, but only with pints and half pints, not with quarts, which is really unfortunate because I like to can my peaches in quarts, which I think most people probably do. But if not, if you do have a pressure or a Presto, or Nesco, I think makes one as well, pressure canner, electric pressure canner, and you do want to can your peaches in pints, then you can use it for that. I have air conditioning in our house up here because honestly, we don't generally need it. As long as I keep my windows shut in the heat of the day and keep them all covered up and the doors from opening and closing, it stays fairly cool in there. Be a little warmer in there today because I'm going to have to open and close the sliding door more than I would like. So I'm going to change this water out because this is actually the 4th batch that I've run through this already today, and I do want to can in this, and this water is pretty dirty now. Let's bring this inside. Oh, that's heavy. So this is how our peaches look once they've been peeled. Now we're going to quarter them, and then we just put them into a pot. This is cold water with around a 1/4 cup of lemon juice or so for a pot this size, and that just helps them so that they don't oxidize. So this is our pot of prepared peaches, and then we put them from here into our jars. And this is the lemon juice that we're using just to keep them from oxidizing, but any kind of lemon juice will do. Just are bringing our clean jars out here and doing the whole entire thing from out here. So we have our peaches here, into the jars they go. And then this is the simple syrup that we're using, and all this is some organic cane sugar. That's why it looks a little bit brown. You can use any kind of sugar. You can use honey. You can even use just water if you want. And you just make this to the sweetness you like. So this is just a light syrup. This is not super sweet, but sweet enough to bring the flavor of the peaches out nicely when they're canned. So then we have our big canner over here. Like I said, that one fits 9 quarts. We're just at the point now, you can see the bubbles are starting to come up. We're gonna wait until this is a rolling boil, and then we're gonna set our timer for 30 minutes. So you wanna have, like I said, 1 inch of water over your jars, and then once these hit a rolling boil, just like I said over there, we'll set our timer. So these are all going to come up to a boil at a different rate. So I do have 3 separate timers for each of these canners. And then over here is where we're going to set our jars when they're finished. And I do have an umbrella over that as well, so they're not sitting in the direct sunlight. So this is what we're looking for, a nice rolling boil. Can you see that? So now we're gonna set our timer on this one for 30 minutes. Let's see what the temperature is in the shade here. So we're at almost 35 degrees in the shade. So 37 degrees, yeah, that was 100. So we're just gonna run down and grab some cilantro. I did see some cilantro. Cilantro self-seeds everywhere in a garden. So if you let it go to flower and to seed even once, you'll have cilantro for years afterwards. That works out well for me today though, because I did forget to buy some cilantro when we were at the market. I am really curious to see what is going to happen with my peas in this heat, because my peas just started flowering a couple of days ago. So I'm trying to keep them really well watered so that they don't dry out too much. And the pathways in my garden really need to be mowed, but it is definitely too hot for that. Okay, I just want to take a quick jaunt down to the high tunnel and see how we're doing for temperature in there. Usually when it's hot like this, it's actually cooler in the high tunnel than it is outside because I have the shade cloth on in here. Yeah, it's definitely cooler feeling in here. It is still 35 degrees Celsius, but it feels a lot nicer because it is in the shade. I did run my drip irrigation last night for a couple of hours, so everything has had a nice deep watering. And the peppers are just loving this heat. So excited about my peppers this year. I did not think I was gonna get decent peppers, but I think I might. Okay, let's head back up here and grab some cilantro. Oh, Dan did get the hay off the field. I don't know if you can see how shaggy it is here. We got a new mower and we were really hoping it was gonna cut the hay better than our old mower, but Dan's gonna have to do some work on lowering it down. Well, there was a few things that kind of went wrong. He said he cut it when it was too wet, so it was kind of folding it rather than cutting it. He needs to sharpen the blades. What else did he say? And he needs to lower the actual blades down a bit, but still, at least the hay's off now. Where was that cilantro? Aha. Got a little tiny cilantro right here. That is not nearly enough cilantro. Fortunately, my hubby is in town right now, and I'll ask him if he can pick me up some cilantro because we needed some red peppers as well. So he can grab me a nice big clump of cilantro. I don't feel like a walk down to the garden is complete without just a little bit of a tour. Aren't these beautiful? So these are purple dwarf. They aren't looking very dwarfy this year. They're actually pretty tall, but sugar snap pea, they're one of my favorites. They're so beautiful. Happy bumblebees on the borage. I love the star shape of these flowers. These are edible, so you can actually use these to decorate cakes and things like that. They taste a little bit more like cucumber than they do sweet, but they're sure beautiful. I planted a lot of cosmos around my garden this year, and I just love the bright color popping up there in the green. Cabbages are looking beautiful. I'm keeping my eye out on the broccoli and cauliflower for bolting. There are a couple over here that are starting to form heads, so this is not going to be a very large head of broccoli. I'll let this go for a few days and then we'll pull it off, and this is pretty common when it gets really, really hot or the plant has been stressed. I find that broccoli are really prone to stress reactions, sending out these little tiny heads like this rather than a full-size one. So I do have a few doing that over here. Thankfully not all of them though. The corn is even starting to look better. So maybe we'll get some corn after all this year too. That would be wild after this cold spring. Kohlrabi's looking good. We could actually even harvest some of these little tender heads now. I just like these cut up, a little bit of salt, or in salad. They're really good. Grated in salad, they're really good. Lettuces are looking just gorgeous. I'm gonna have to harvest these because they're gonna get bitter in this heat. Scarlet runner beans are starting to take off. So we cut this right back down here probably 5 days ago now, and look at how much it's grown back already. Carrots are starting to look good. German chamomile is just about to start blooming here, so we're gonna be able to harvest that for tea very soon. Onion row is looking good, as is the beets over here. So the ones on this end are golden beets. So these ones are all cylindra beets. Cylindra beets are my favorite for canning with, and they're super easy to peel. So they are, you can kind of see here, but they're a long, narrow cylindrical shaped beet, and one of my faves to grow. Turnips are really starting to take off here, which is fantastic. Hopefully they don't bolt either. We're getting some little baby turnips down there. So I like to use turnips in my beef stew, but they're also really good roasted. They get a lot more sweet, kind of caramelized when they're roasted, and it takes away a bit of that radish flavor that turnips tend to have. My celery is not loving this heat so much. So celery is one of those plants that does need a fair bit of water. So I'm trying to keep them watered, but if I were to try one of these stalks right now, I'll bet you it would be pretty dry and woody tasting. So hopefully it cools off towards the fall when I like to harvest my celery. Look at the calendula. It is just about to bloom. So these ones are orange and yellow calendula. There's an orange one right there. So this is just going to be a beautiful little splash of color right here. Check this out. From the heat of the last couple of days, it has actually killed some of the leaves of my bean plant. So beans like heat. See, look at that. You can really see the scald on there. They like heat, but they don't like to be cooked. Kind of a little sensitive plant, these guys. Oh, look at this. We have some bolting on our bok choy. So I'm going to be harvesting these ones probably maybe even later on this evening. They're still totally edible like this, but all of this bok choy is going to have to get pulled out of the garden. And it also looks like these lettuces are going to start bolting too. Lettuce starts to kind of grow up in a little bit of a point when it's going to bolt, and you can see that's happening here. Aren't these gorgeous though? And our flower patch down at the bottom of the garden is going to look just so beautiful in another week or two. So I think I shared this before, but I planted my zinnia back here. So they're getting really shaded out from the sunflowers and from the cosmos on this side. I should have put the zinnia at the front of the row here instead of there. So that's kind of unfortunate because these guys are going to get pretty tall. Hopefully they'll be able to persevere and bloom. The garlic on this side, I'm going to be pulling out here probably in about 2 weeks. And that's one of the reasons why this bed isn't really weeded, because at this point of the size of this garlic, these weeds aren't they're not a lot of competition for the nutrients in the ground at this point. Once the garlic is out of here, I'm going to be planting a fall crop of probably some spinach, maybe some other cool crops in this bed that are going to be low to the ground, so that when we're up here looking down at the garden, so there'll be low crops there, and then behind where all those flowers are, it's just going to be a wall of color along there, and I cannot wait. Our snapdragons are just falling over a little bit because I just gave them a really good soak, but they are starting to bloom, and I'm so excited. This is going to look so beautiful, and it's all filled with a rainbow of gorgeous snapdragons. And this is very encouraging. Got a few weeds in here, but the zucchini and the squash are really starting to take off in here, so that's super awesome. If it stays hot for the rest of the summer, we will probably get squash, especially if we don't end up getting an early frost this year. And that would be amazing, because honestly I'd pretty much given up on the squash. And check this out, friends, we have some pickling cucumbers, little baby pickling cucumbers forming on our vines. So that is so exciting. So we are probably going to get a lot of pickling cucumbers this year. They're just going to be later than usual. I'm really looking forward to when all of these squash fill out and cover up all of this landscape fabric here. Everything is definitely starting to take off in this heat. Love it so much. I also needed to get my garlic scapes picked, but today is just far too busy to worry about that. We'll do that tomorrow. Boy, am I glad I got the pool all set up. Looking forward to going for a swim in there later. All right, friends, we are making progress. It is 3 o'clock. It is 37 degrees in the shade currently, so it's very, very hot. But we are now done all of the actual cutting up of all of the peaches, blanching, peeling, all that part is all done now for the day, so that's great. And we were able to have lots of breaks in between it, which is good. So now it's just a matter of processing the rest of the peaches and getting them actually run through the canners. And the nice thing about that is we can get the canners, or get them all loaded into the canners, and then come back inside where it's much cooler. So that's good. Right now though, I just want to put together our peach salsa. We had the tomatoes I keep saying tomatoes, peaches all chopped up here. We're using the recipe out of the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving here, and this is the peach salsa recipe on page 215. So we have our peaches chopped up here, red peppers, onions, And all of these are just chopped up to the size that we like our salsa, but you can chop them up whatever size you like. There's also a couple cups of vinegar already in here. Here's all our seasonings and our chopped garlic. Cilantro. I know cilantro is one of those things you either love it or you hate it. I am someone who loves it. And then we have a whole bunch of jalapenos here. I'm gonna add, I don't know, maybe that much of these. And then I'll taste this once this is cooked down a little bit and decide if I want to add. So now we will mix this all up, and it already smells so good. You could eat it fresh like this without preserving it, and it would be delicious. The thing I love about peach salsa is how fresh it tastes even in the dead of winter. It's like opening up a jar of summertime. So now we just want to bring this up to a boil, simmer it for 5 minutes, and then we're going to be able to jar it up. But because I have my canners currently full of our other peaches and I want to get those through, I'm just going to set this aside on the stove and we'll get it all heated up right before we're going to put it in the canners. Just turned the heat off. We're going to jar this up. We have this canner is ready to empty. This canner is ready to empty, and we're already at 75 jars. Fantastic. All right, friends, it is around 6 o'clock in the evening and we are now finished. All the cleanup is done and I wanted to show you what we ended up with. Hi, Nala. We ended up with 96 jars of canned peaches, and I think it was 13 jars or so of, I thought that we were going to get somewhere between, I think 70, 75. I think that's what I said at the beginning of the video. But we ended up getting 92 jars of peaches, just the plain peaches with the light syrup. And then we ended up with 14 jars of the peach salsa. Doesn't that look pretty? So we just ended up with, I think, about 15 or so peaches left over. I still have the blueberries that I have to process. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with those yet, but I'm going to bring them inside because it's supposed to be hot again tomorrow. Are you trying to get in here, Nala? Hi, sweet kitty. Just a reminder that there is the canning guide down in the show notes below and in the pinned comment if you would like to check that out. I hope that you enjoyed coming along with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. Come on, Nala.